Sunscreens can cause melanoma. More and more people are using sunscreens. They want to protect their body, and they're told by their doctors and everybody else that they need some protection to stop the UVA and UVB from going into their body. However, melanoma is the fastest growing cancer in the United States, and yet people are using more and more sunscreens. It's kind of paradoxical. It is in a way, but not completely. Let's understand a couple of things about the UV rays. There are three of them: UVA, UVB, and UVC, which most people don't talk about, and for good reason. The ionosphere stops the UVC from actually hitting the Earth. So when we're on the Earth, there are two rays to be concerned about: UVA and UVB. UVA is actually the most abundant of the ultraviolet rays. Some people call it ultraviolet light, but it's not really light because you can't see it, right? So therefore, let's just call it rays. UVA, think of A standing for aging, right? It's the one that actually ages the skin. UVA can pass through glass. It can pass through your windshield. And it comes in two levels. It comes in a short wave and a long wave. The shorter wave penetrating your skin to a certain depth, the long wave going deeper in. The most potent form of the ultraviolet rays are UVB. They are the ones that cause the burn. They're the ones that actually give you that color to your skin and unfortunately do more damage to your skin than just that. So, what do we understand about these rays? In the US, we put out sunscreens that have an SPF, sun protection factor, number given to them. You see 30, you see 50, you see 80. Every year they seem to be going up higher and higher and higher. I actually saw one that was 140. Well, let's understand something in the United States about SPF. The higher you go, probably the more toxic it is to your skin. That's number one. Also, the higher you go, it isn't really giving you that much more protection. Sun protection factor 30, or SPF 30, stops about 98% of the UV rays from going into your body. SPF 50, about 98.5%. And SPF 100, maybe 99%. There isn't a big difference. But here's one problem with it. SPF in the United States refers only to the UVB protection. It is not a measure of protection from UVA. And that's the danger, because it's the UVA that is the most cancer-causing of the ultraviolet rays. Most sunscreens use chemicals. One chemical that's very common is oxybenzone. Again, if you go to the Environmental Working Group website, which is an independent website that checks out all kinds of ingredients, and it'll be good for you to go to that to check out even the sunscreens and the beauty care products that you're using. What you'll find is oxybenzone, out of a rating of 1 to 10, 10 being the most toxic, 1 being the least toxic, it has a rating of 8. It's a cancer-producing agent. It's really not protecting you from anything. It's doing you more harm than protection. In fact, there are a lot of countries that won't allow oxybenzone to be used in their sunscreens. In Europe, for example, it actually is a cell disruptor. It actually harms the cell. So it's not the place you want to be. Most chemical sunblockers are acidic. That's the other problem. When they're chemical, the way they're formulated, they tend to be on a pH level below 7. Cancer cells thrive in an acidic environment. So now you're putting on chemicals that don't stop the UVA, only stop the UVB, and you're putting them into an acidic base, which is, if any cancer is being formed, it actually aids it. So it's against all the rules of what you're trying to do. It's not where you want to go. So at Replenish Plus, we do something entirely different. What we do is we use zinc oxide. It's a mineral. It's not a chemical. It's natural in its form. We formulate it so that it's actually in a base pH level. So it actually will destroy, or certainly won't allow thriving of cancer cells. It works against all the other theories of most of all the other sunscreens. What you got to understand with sunscreens that are chemical, that they break down usually within about 45 minutes. And also, that SPF rating that you see, it's based on a certain amount that you put on your skin. When they do the testing, and what that testing is to see color of your skin changing, because they're protecting against UVB, they put on approximately 2 milligrams per centimeter squared on your body. That's the metric system. And of course, in the United States, we don't use metric. It's too complicated. I mean, it's based on the number 10. How can you use that? I mean, 12 inches to, equals a foot, and 36 inches equals a yard, and 3 feet equals a yard. That makes a lot more sense than going from 10 to 10 to 10. So we refuse to use it. Thank God for that. But the thing is, with 2 milligrams per centimeter, what that would mean is on an average body, especially a woman who's, let's say, 5'5", 5'6", even if she's using a one-piece suit, she would have to put on between 1 to 1.5 ounces of sun cream or sunscreen on her body to equal the amount that the testing was done by. Most people don't do that because if you buy a 3-ounce jar, you don't put on half of it right away. And the other thing that a lot of people do is they use the sprays because it's simpler. The last thing you want to do is use a spray because now you're putting toxins on your skin and it's also going into your nose and going right into your body so that you can hit your body from the inside out and the outside in. It's not where you want to be, okay? So, you got to recognize that if you don't use enough sunscreen, then you're not getting the SPF protection even against the UVB. And it's not like if you use half of it, you get half the protection. Nay, nay, nay. That isn't how it works. If you use half of it, it's exponential. If you use half of it, you get 1/4 the effect. If you use 1/3, you get 1/9 the effect. So your SPF 30 goes down to somewhere around an SPF 3 if you only use 1/3 the amount you're supposed to. And you better replace it about every 45 minutes because chemicals in the UV rays breaks down about every 45 minutes, and you've got to protect the sunscreen you put on from the rays about every 45 minutes. So if you're going to get an SPF rating of 30 or 50 or whatever you got in there, and I advise never go above 50, if you're going to use an SPF sunscreen and you want to get the protection the way it's rated, you've got to put on about 1.5 ounces every 45 minutes. That means during an 8-hour day, you're going to be putting on about 8 to 12 ounces of sunscreen. Realistically, you're not going to do it. So it gives you a false sense of security the way it's been advertised, and that's why the melanoma rate is going up. So what we do is we use zinc oxide. Zinc oxide also will break down after a period of time, but it doesn't become a toxin when it breaks down. And it takes a longer period of time for it to break down. And also it does protect against both UVA and UVB. Don't be fooled by sunscreens that say UVA UVB blend, because in the United States, you think, oh, UVA, UVB blend, SPF 30. I'm getting protection against both. No, you're not. As long as the UVB protection is 30, and even if the UVA is only 1, well, they can say UVA, UVB blend, SPF 30. It's not giving you what you need. And remember what I said earlier. Think of UVA, A for aging, is cancer causing, UVB for burning. So what you want to do is make sure you get the right sunscreen on your body. I would strongly advise you use zinc oxide. We make a very bioactive zinc oxide product, and because of our product, what we've got on here is something that will give you the protection you want all the way through your body and for the day. Again though, I don't care what sunscreen you're using. Don't stay in the sun too long. And by the way, I advise staying in the sun for about 10 or 15 minutes every day without any sunscreen so you can form that vitamin D that keeps your body so good. I mean, the paradox, vitamin D, by the way, fights cancer because it builds up your immune system. So what you really want to do is get some of that vitamin D, get some of those rays, do it for 10 or 15 minutes, go to the beach, use zinc oxide, Replenish Plus, Sundone, best thing you're ever going to use. Put it on your body, but don't stay out there for 6, 8 hours. and you'll be healthy and your skin won't age. And that's the way to go for the sun and the summer.